The late Jurassic was not a peaceful era. It was a time of unprecedented scale, ruled by giants and stalked by carnivores whose anatomy was honed for conflict. But violence in the prehistoric world was not always a simple matter of predator and prey. Sometimes, the most telling evidence reveals a conflict far more personal. A struggle written on the very bones of the hunters themselves. We have found fossils that bear the marks of a brutal, repetitive, and deeply puzzling behavior. A mystery that challenges our understanding of theropod life. Now, let's open the fossil record and resurrect the story of the bizarre survivors. This is Ceratosaurus nasicornis, the horned lizard. Roaming the floodplains of North America's Morrison Formation around 150 million years ago. It was a predator defined by its unique and intimidating ornamentation. While its contemporary Allosaurus was the undisputed apex predator of the environment, Ceratosaurus was a formidable and specialized hunter in its own right. Measuring up to 20 feet long, it was a mid-sized theropod, but powerfully built. Its anatomy presents a suite of fascinating adaptations. It possessed unusually long blade-like teeth in its upper jaw, proportionally larger than even those of T-Rex, suggesting a specific feeding strategy, perhaps specializing in different prey than its larger rivals. Its name comes from the prominent bladed horn on its snout, a feature whose purpose has long been debated. Was it a weapon? A display structure? This question is central to its story. Adding to its distinct profile, Ceratosaurus also possessed a row of small, bony scutes, or osteoderms, running down its back. A feature rare among large theropods, hinting at a need for protection or display. It moved through a world teeming with giants. Herds of Stegosaurus and young Brachiosaurus would have been potential meals, but also immense dangers. Ceratosaurus was built for ambush and power, likely occupying an ecological niche just below the top-tier predators. A ghost of the riverbeds and forests. For decades, this was our primary understanding of the animal, a uniquely adorned solitary hunter. But the fossil record preserves more than just anatomy. It preserves behavior. When we analyze the skulls of Ceratosaurus, a startling and specific pattern emerges. Many specimens, particularly those from the Cleveland Lloyd dinosaur quarry, show evidence of repeated, non-lethal trauma. These are not the crushing puncture wounds of an Allosaurus attack, nor are they the healed fractures from a failed hunt. Instead, we find a consistent pattern of scars, lesions, and bite marks, concentrated on the skull, jaws, and even the nasal horn itself. The marks are often paired, matching the spacing of Ceratosaurus teeth. This is clear evidence of face biting, a behavior seen in animals today. But the sheer frequency and specific placement of these injuries suggests something more than random aggression. The most critical piece of this puzzle, however, is who bears these scars. While present in some adults, the evidence is strikingly prevalent in juvenile and subadult specimens. These are not the battle scars of seasoned veterans defending territory, but the repeating injuries of the young. This observation fundamentally shifts our perspective. Why were young Ceratosaurus engaging in such dangerous face-to-face conflict with their own kind? The evidence points away from a simple predation or resource competition and towards something far more complex. A structured, ritualized behavior that began long before these animals reached full maturity. To understand this behavior, we must first rule out what it is not. The scars are not random. Had a Ceratosaurus been attacked by a larger predator, like an Allosaurus or Torvosaurus, the expected evidence would be massive, crushing bite marks on the torso, limbs, or the back of the skull. Classic predator-prey trauma. We do not see this. Instead, the wounds are concentrated on the face, jaws, and the horn itself. Furthermore, many of these injuries show clear signs of healing. This is not a single lethal encounter. This is a pattern of repeated, non-fatal conflict. The only logical conclusion is that the attacker was another Ceratosaurus. This is intraspecific combat, conflict in the same species. But to call it simple fighting misunderstands the data. The evidence points to something far more structured, ritualized agonistic behavior. In modern animals, such behavior is common. It is a way to settle disputes over territory, mating rights, or social rank, without resorting to mutually assured destruction. When we see two bull crocodiles wrestling, locking jaws and thrashing, they are not always trying to kill each other. They are testing strength, establishing dominance. The parallels to the Ceratosaurus fossils are striking. The patterned healed scars suggest a set of rules for combat. When we analyze the wounds with this hypothesis, the why becomes clearer. This was combat for dominance. For decades, the famous nasal horn of Ceratosaurus was a source of popular speculation. It has often been depicted as a formidable stabbing weapon, used to dispatch prey or gore rivals. The fossil evidence, however, tells a different story. The horn itself is a delicate, hollow structure, poorly suited for high-impact stress. Ramming it into the flank of a Stegosaurus or the tough hide of another theropod would have risked catastrophic failure. This is a classic case of myth-busting. The horn was not a bayonet. So, what was its purpose? Its true function was likely twofold: display and targeting. Like the antlers of a modern deer or the crest of a cassowary. The horn was a visual signal of maturity, health, and status. It served to intimidate rivals and potentially attract mates. But its role in combat was also critical. The fact that the horns themselves sometimes bear bite marks suggests they were a focal point of the conflict. The ritual was not a ramming contest, but a face-off. We can reconstruct the scene based on this evidence. Two young Ceratosaurus square off, perhaps over access to a carcass or social standing within the group. The conflict begins with posturing. They would have used their horns, their rows of dorsal scutes, and perhaps vocalizations to intimidate one another. If posturing failed, the conflict would escalate to physical contact. They would snap and lunge, their long blade-like teeth, so effective at slicing prey, now raking across the tough, scaly skin of their rival's face. They may have gripped each other by the jaws, initiating a pushing and twisting match, a grueling test of strength. The goal was not to inflict a killing blow, but to assert physical superiority, to force the opponent to back down. The loser would retreat, bearing new scars as a physical reminder of their subordinate status. The fact that this behavior is so heavily documented in juveniles is the most revealing clue. This was not just a conflict for adult mating rights. This was the establishment of a pecking order that began in youth. By engaging in these rituals early, young Ceratosaurus were learning the social rules of their species. They were practicing for the more serious conflicts of adulthood and establishing a hierarchy that would create stability within the group. In a dangerous ecosystem dominated by Allosaurus, a stable social structure, one where disputes could be settled without lethal force, would have been a significant evolutionary advantage. The skull scars are not evidence of mindless aggression, but the byproducts of a necessary and sophisticated social dynamic that governed Ceratosaurus life from a young age. This evidence for a juvenile pecking order fundamentally reframes our view of Ceratosaurus. It challenges the classic lone wolf predator model so often applied to theropods, EU. A model that is often more assumption than fact. The implications are profound. Ceratosaurus was, at least during parts of its life, a social animal. This behavior was not an anomaly. It was the key to its society. This nascent social structure was likely a critical adaptation for its specific ecological niche. In the Morrison Formation, Ceratosaurus was a mesopredator. It lived in the shadow of the colossal Allosaurus and the formidable Torvosaurus. A solitary Ceratosaurus would have been at a distinct disadvantage, constantly at risk of having its kills stolen or even being hunted itself. But a group, bound by a clear and stable dominance hierarchy established in youth, becomes a far more formidable and efficient unit. This social framework, maintained by the non-lethal rituals we see fossilized in their skulls, would have allowed for greater cooperation. We can infer that these groups could have defended carcasses from larger, solitary rivals. They may have even cooperated to hunt prey that a single Ceratosaurus would find too dangerous, such as a subadult Stegosaurus or a small sauropod. The ritual combat was the very mechanism that made this cooperation possible. By providing a non-lethal outlet to resolve internal disputes over resources and rank, ensuring the group remained cohesive. When we look to modern descendants and analogs, reptiles like crocodiles, which engage in complex dominance displays and face biting, and especially birds, which are living dinosaurs, we see this pattern repeated. Many bird species have intricate social hierarchies that are established early in life. This is not primitive behavior. It is a sophisticated and evolutionarily successful solution to the intense pressures of a competitive environment. The fossil record, therefore, forces us to bust another myth. Ceratosaurus was likely not just a brutish, solitary monster. The nasal horn, once popularly imagined as a savage weapon, is now reinterpreted as a vital social tool. A signal of status, a focal point for display, and a target in a complex dance of dominance. The scars left on their skulls are not just injuries. They are behavioral fossils. They are the script of that dance, a physical record of a society in action. Ceratosaurus emerges from the stone not just as a horned lizard, but as a complex social predator. Its life governed by rules and rituals we are only just beginning to decipher. The story of Ceratosaurus is a powerful reminder that the fossil record preserves more than bone. It holds the echoes of behavior, the rules of a lost society etched in healed wounds. These scars are not just signs of conflict, but proof of a complex social life thriving in the shadow of giants. A testament to the intricate strategies of survival in an ancient, interconnected world.